Thank you, Prashad and Doug. It's a very interesting story. And I love the part when he's saying replace Zora with SAP products. You know why? And last year, I think when we're telling the same story, they rated the Zora versus Brim, what can be done, what cannot be done. And quite interesting, they have 10 reasons why they dumped Zora and then go with SAP Brim. And I like the other story is the public cloud and private cloud is not competitors, not battle like Arnold and David's did, is more of comprehensive with each other and depends on your need. They use both product, like we have Robert Bosch did the same thing, use the two modules, public and private, for different requirement from the business side. Next, we're going to have another high-tech giant, Google. I don't know who doesn't use it, but Bala is a very experienced SAP person, and then he's going to talk about how use the Brim to enable their Google Cloud platform, how to do the financial compliance and the localization. Welcome, Bala.
Thank you. Thanks, Eddie. Good afternoon, everyone. I know it's 2 long days. I promise I'll keep it really short. I'll try to give you 5 minutes back, okay, for Q&A. Well, like, I'm Bala Jeyakumar. I represent Google Cloud. Happy to see a lot of familiar faces that I've seen only in GVC. I know last couple of years, we all stuck at home, especially I've seen only up to here of most of you in GVC. Really happy to see all the faces, a lot of good connections we made. Thanks for the event. Thanks to Heidi and also the organizer, TAC America. She's been really patient with me. Thank you so much. Okay, let's start with this one. My favorite SAP version, you might be wondering what it is. It's 4.0B. It's a very old one. That is where my SAP journey started. Please don't guess my age, okay? Well, it's been 23 years. I'm still into SAP implementations to various clients, and now I represent Google Cloud. Though it's been many years, my learning curve is still very steep. SAP is evolving. I'm still learning a lot. Okay, so now let's dive into Brim. Why Brim? Why SAP Cloud need Brim? So these are the 3 easy questions that we need to answer ourselves, what was built, and what is needed, and what must be done. Okay, let's go with the first question. We were running a non-SAP system. So we were looking at the system. We've been running it for more than a decade. Is it the right system for us? Can it is it scalable? Can it handle our 10x growth? So the answers were negative. So now we move on to the next question. What is needed? We started looking into ERP products in the market, and always I'm an engineer. The Google engineers, we always have a mindset, hey, can we build SAP? Can we build our own ERP system? But always there is a negotiation between buy versus build, right? Then we look at the third question, what must be done, right? So we look at a scalable system that has the flexibility. It's a faster, M&A, any M&A onboarding. Then it has to set the foundation for, automatic, a revenue recognition. And also, of course, Google Cloud is a global company. So we need to have a geo expansion, easy geo expansion. So we filled up all these metrics, and the answer is Brim. So that is where our SAP Brim journey started. So this is my agenda. So I know we've seen a lot of presentation, CM, CI, CC, Brim, CPQ. We talk about it a lot. I just want to cover the first 4 bullet points about SAP Brim and what Google Cloud is doing. And the remaining 4, I'm going to save it for one of my favorite topics, what is really happening in Google Cloud? What is the innovative initiatives that we are taking? How we are taking it to the next 10 miles. So let's jump into it. So let's start with our favorite topic, SAP Brim, order to cash transformation. So I'll share some of the challenges, the lessons learned, and also some great like success stories in our SAP Brim like journey. We picked the tool saying SAP Brim, it's a go-to tool for Google Cloud. We started this journey in 2021. We started the implementation. It was really, really bumpy. We were all in middle of pandemic, and pretty much everybody is remote. It was really challenging for us. And also, if you look at the system and the processes side, we have to like lift and shift pretty much like, whole bunch of like, upstream and downstream feeder system. We have to like, sunset all this system and bring this business into, SAP Brim. And the other thing is the go live was pushed, obviously, like, it's a lot of challenges. And we're supposed to go live in 2022, Q2, and it was pushed to like towards end of Q4. It's really, really, trust me, it's really a bad idea. Because the Google Cloud and pretty much most of you in the sales, like that your order volume shoots up in December. And trust me, it's like the year-end close, it was like really hard for us. But we stabilized the system. In 3 months, the system was really well stabilized. We are able to like reach our like peak volume. And if you look at our CI numbers, our CI invoice like rate is like 99% accuracy, and our user engagement. I know like users normally like it's very hard to shift from like one UI to other. We went through like rigorous training. They are adapted to the SAP UI. And our user engagement is like, top of like 98%. That happened in 2022 and early like, this year. Then we want to like, make the system more scalable. Then we started with like, what else we need to do before we start the journey of RAR, CI, the full-blown CI, CM, and CC. So we looked into it. We need to reduce the manual errors. There's a lot of manual error happening. So I have a slide that'll talk about like, how we like controlled all the manual errors, what we built. Then also like, my favorite topic, one of my favorite topics is like, simplified UI. I think someone presented, talk about the number of clicks. So we have some good stories to talk about like, how we achieved there. Then also like, we need to onboard like new product lines into like Google Cloud like product lines into SAP Brim. And of course, like there are other like tons of business processes, like, we need to have like, custom billing cycle. And my last but not like, least, my real favorite topic, Gen AI for like, song. Okay. So let's talk about like, the product lines, what Brim is really supporting Google Cloud. Then we'll talk about like, the go-to-market. So we enabled like, these are the like the whole list of like product lines, some of the product lines we enabled. That's our like phase 1 of SAP Brim implementation. Then like slowly we expanded to other product areas. For example, Chrome OS, it's really not under Google Cloud, but we expanded that to Chrome OS. Now they are using SAP Brim as well. Then we looked at it like we need to have a PSO support. So we onboarded PSO into SAP. Means like, we need to build a like, FF, like financial force integration with SAP Brim. And the success story continue. And the last thing is like, we successfully like sunsetted our non-SAP system that was running for like a good like 12 plus years in, for Google, not only for Google Cloud, for other like areas like, our supply chain, our device and services, and also our financial system. Now everything, I'm very happy to announce everything is currently in SAP, the full SAP stack. Okay, let's talk about like the go-to-market. Okay, so Brim, how Brim is supporting our, the go-to-market, how like, it's enabling us to do a lift and shift of M&As. So Google Cloud, their charter for like, M&A is pretty wide. For the next, like if you look at 24 months, we know like, for which quarter, like which M&A we're going to like, execute. For example, this year, we lift and shifted like, 4 different M&As. So when I say M&A, like, Google Cloud merger and acquire companies, right? So they might be running like SAP or non-SAP or Oracle or whatnot, like they were running. But we need to bring the business process as well as the products into SAP Brim. That is what like the whole, this project is about. We faced like, okay, our main goal that's come from our like, big bosses is like, hey, if I give a M&A, you need to do a lift and shift in 30 days. So we are not there yet, but we are very, very close. We are like, in the process of achieving that 30 days like goal. Any process, obviously we know like we have challenges, but I just want to call out like, two major challenges. So challenge number one, the migration. So the company comes with saying like a ton loads of data. They're open like, orders, open invoices, and also there is a historical order, historical invoices for their like SOX compliance. So how to solve it? So we all like, stuck into a deep like, brainstorming session. Then we said, okay, is there anything out of the box or can we build it? Like then we looked at it like, SAP like, migration framework. We enhanced, we built a migration framework. Now it's like a cakewalk for us. We can like, migrate any number of orders, doesn't matter what is the volume. We can migrate the orders as well as the invoices in no time. So it's a generic framework. It's going to support like, any M&As. So that's the first challenge we faced, we solved it. And the second one is the major one, like, every company have a like, their own customized like business process. How can we like, bring this custom business process into SAP? So that's the second challenge. So again, like, this is where the innovation come into picture. We created a configurable like, framework where like, my business can go and like enable, disable whatever the validations they want, or say the custom billing, or what not the new business process, they can configure. They don't really wait for the developer to come and do it. It's a one-time deal. It takes some time for us to build it, but once we build it, like, it's a cakewalk for the business. Pretty much like, our actual 30 days goal is like, we don't want to involve engineers to do any like, M&A onboarding. It has to be done by the business with like very least or to near zero involvement from the engineers. Okay, so we talked about some success stories, some goals we set. Let's talk about some challenges. When we lifted and shifted from like completely sunset that like, the non-SAP system, now we are completely in SAP BRIM. I think someone called out in one of the previous presentations about like the Fiori, right? So just to let you know, like, the thick client access in Google, it's only for developers, testers, and probably the BSAs. For the end users, there is no thick client, access at all. It means they have to go through Fiori. Everything is in Fiori. So this is where actually the problem started, okay? So during our UAT, we performed a TNM, like a time and motion study, and we identified the numbers are really not impressive. In the very beginning, it's not at all impressive. If you look at these numbers, right, like the new order creation, the 40% to 80% increase from the legacy system. And my favorite one, I'm not going to call out everything, you can read it. My favorite one is the expansions. Our expansion volume is high, and you'll see the number, it shoots to 230%. Any single amendment we perform, it's normally take 3 to 10 minutes in the past, and now it started taking 10 to 25 minutes in SAP. So how this is going to impact our budget resource, right? So it means we need to onboard like, more sales reps, more agents to perform these operations. It means like, we need to carve out some of our R&D budget into that one. Not a great experience. So this is where like we started with the HarmonX UI. You can see that like, the screenshots of two different UIs. One is like the existing UI, what SAP provides like out of the box. And what you see in the other side is a new UI. The look and feel is completely different. And we use the Google Cloud like, CSS, I could say. And what is the real ROI in this case is we are able to perform that expansions in just 3 clicks. Just 3 clicks and you're completely done. And also the other thing is like, we pretty much like, pre-populate everything. In the old screen, in the existing, I mean, I call it as existing now, it's really the old UI, where for a single line, the sales reps have to enter like 50 plus fields, and there is a lot of like room for like manual errors. Now we automate it, it means like less than 10 fields across like any number of lines. So after we implemented this HarmonX, we not only reached the benchmark, in fact, we beat that like, the legacy systems like benchmark. So it means like this time we have a lot of savings in terms of like our headcount budget, because, and also like, faster operations. Any amendments, we do it in no time. Okay, so, before I go to that Google innovative initiatives, where we are and what is our next step, I'll just a little bit talk about it. So first phase is like our SAP BRIM implementation. Then like the second phase, and also we have a CI, but it's not a full-blown CI. It means the payment gateway is not SAP. The customer communication for the invoice, it's not coming out of CI. We generate the bids, we create the billing document, we generate the invoice, not the actual invoice record, then we send it to our Google homegrown system for the actual invoicing. The next step, what the team is currently actively working on is like, we are going with the RAR, SAP RAR, that's planned to go live in Q2 of next year. And also we are starting the full-blown like, CI, CC, and CM. And again, right, BRIM, what it's currently supporting, it's only like the subscription-based models. But once we go to that, CI, CM, CC, the 100% of Google Cloud's like, revenue, it's going to flow through like, CI. So that project is like we are starting in Jan, and the first MVP we are planning to launch in Q2 of 2025. It's a pretty long project, so we're going to be super busy for the next at least like 24 months, I could say. Okay, I didn't talk about the other systems. You name it, pretty much we have it. Like we have like the SAP S4, like we are running in that. We have like Ariba, that's where we are using for source to pay. Then like we have of course we use Concur, and we have like PAPM, BW, and a full-blown like a Solomon module, GTS, like pretty much like GRC, everything. It's a full suite like we have it. The last system that added to this, like the family of SAP ecosystem for Google is like, the SAP BRIM. Okay. So let's talk about like, a little bit about, I know you all know about BART, I believe, I hope you are using it. So from the very beginning of this year, especially this year, there is a lot of hype in terms of the Gen AI. It's been the top, talk of the town, I don't know, for no reason. Whatever you do, it's always about Gen AI. So we have the nuts and bolts in Google. So we thought of like, how we can make use of it. And again, right, I'm not a fan of like just doing a POC. We were looking at like, a very strong like use case. Can it really solving like, a major like, end user problem? So we looked at it, and the one of the main queries normally we get is like, the sales reps or like the sales comp team, they call us, they say, hey, like, why there is a decline in order rate for this customer 123? I know it looks like a very easy question, but like, trust me, we end up like spending days together to find out the root cause of this. We pull up, like we all sit in a room, we pull up our engineers, we are analysts, our BSAs, and our starting point will be obviously the BP, right? We get the BP number, then we go and like query it out of the HANA, then we do a dice and slice, we put it in our BigQuery, we do the analytics, then it gives the answer, like why really there is a decline in order rate, right? But it takes like 10 plus like resources and at least like 2 days to give a simple answer. So we thought like this is one of the major use cases where we can integrate BART with SAP BRIM. So what we did is we started like training the BART model. That is like it's not like publicly available now, but I hope it will be like public in sometime soon. So it is available for our internal use. So we integrated Google BART with SAP BRIM. This is like a high-level architecture, how SAP BRIM and BART is talking, okay? So what we are doing is, the simple question what the sales comp team is asking, we take the question and we feed it into our context module and we send it to BART. And the BART comes back. The first job of BART is like, not do anything, just it's written as an open SQL. So internally, because the data is sitting in HANA, right? So we run this like SQL in HANA. We all know it's a structured data. We take the data, then we add it to the existing context module of the BART. We need to keep the context of the question, right? Add it to the context module, send it back to the BART, and it will do the rest. So it will reply back to the sales comp team, any of the end users saying, hey, this is the so-and-so reason, in a human-like manner, say, this is the reason you're seeing a decline in order. It's very simple. They do it in no time. Now they are doing it in within couple of minutes, they get what they want. We don't sit. This is one of the use cases. So like that, we have more use cases. The same user, now they are up to the order, right? Now they are curious about, hey, what happened to my invoices? They can still keep the context and they can ask the question to bot. Hey, bot, what happened to the invoices? I know there is a decline. Have you invoiced my customers for the rest of the orders which went flow through? They can keep the context. They can go on and on. So it's a pretty cool use case. We are thinking we are saving a lot of time. And of course, it's proportionate to money. And we are training more and more models. And this has been really a groundbreaking for our end users now. Okay, so this is the first topic in the innovative initiatives, what we are doing in the SAP and Google Cloud world. The second one I want to talk about, it's very specific to Google. I know some of you might have faced the same issue in your own homegrown systems, right? So what is data bridge? So first, before going there, we need to little bit understand about our network and what network, what is running, right? So all our SAP instances are running in GCP, so also called cloud network, right? And we have tons of Google homegrown applications. They all run in a network called Google Prod network. We always face a challenge the cross-network communication. How can we solve this one? It's been a $1 million question for us. So for example, you have two SAP instances. Normally it's simple, you just do a hit an RFC call, right? In the same fashion, in people in the SWE world, in the Google homegrown application, they call something called RPC. But the problem is, a 3P system cannot call an RPC across the network. So this is the problem statement we were facing. So now we said we really need this communication channel to be open. Then how can we open it, right? And what is the benefit it's going to bring out of it, right? One is the new business process we want to enable that has an impact to the Google homegrown application. Then the second one is we don't want to keep implementing the same thing again and again, right? We strongly believe in framework. So we build this SAP Data Bridge framework, and this can seamlessly communicate between these two networks, the cloud network and the left side what you're seeing, the pylon is actually name of the system. It's called SAP Data Bridge, and this sits in the Google prod network. So there are two ways to solve this issue, first one is I know how many of you used Google PubSub. Anyone used Google PubSub? Okay, yeah, thank you. So first one is the SAP triggers a PubSub. Also, it can carry the payload. So, and the Google system, it can become a subscriber. So, it can subscribe to the topic, and it can access to the payload, and it can call the downstream applications or any API clients. In this case, we called a couple of our internal APIs. The B3 is our payment gateway. AM is our agreement main. Then ICBA, it's it's a validation tool. That's the first way. It's a very simple PubSubs, most of you used. But the second way, that's my favorite way. It's we have the RPCs. So now our job is to wrap that RPC and expose an HTTP endpoint. Once we have an HTTP endpoint, this process we call it as one platform enablement in Google. Once we have the HTTP endpoints, it's just again a cakewalk for SAP, and from ABAP stack, you just call in HTTP post. A post method and you're all done. I know it's very, I don't know it's the right quorum to talk about it, but for us it's it's really, it was a pain point how to do the cross-network communication, because one is very, very secure, and the other side, all our SAP instances are sitting in the GCP in our private cloud. Okay, now I know some of you asked outside about what's the size of your system, how you are managing. So I told them I'll show you, I'll add a slide for it. So this is the slide. And I'm going to talk about some highlights of our SAP systems in GCP, AKA you can take it as a GCP sales pitch. Okay, so our SAP systems availability is very high. I can proudly say our system never went down in the last 5 years. Even if there is a small like, patch we need to do, we can do a rolling bounce of each app server. We don't bring the system down. I mean, like upgrades are a different, like, totally a different flavor. Then like, talk about like, our actual infrastructure, right? This year, we scale out our system from 1 DB node to 2 DB nodes. And next year, we are going from 2 database nodes to 4 database nodes. And looking at the size of the system for, like, for the person who asked me outside, this is the size of our system. It's a 24 terabyte RAM and 832 CPUs. It means we have a lot of, like, work processor. It's going to support, like, our 38% of growth, like a year over year, the Google Cloud's growth is 38%. So it is supporting, and we have, like, more than enough, like, work processors available to add more, like, product lines and processes. And also, we need to keep a code hygiene and also the system health, right? So we do periodic, like, DIRT, the disaster and resilience testing. And anything going to SAP, go through, like, minimum 10x LNP load and performance. And also, of course, we do an upgrade, like, we upgraded from 1809 to 1909, and this year we jumped from 1909 to, like, 2021. And next year we are starting the, the future upgrade as well. So this is a snapshot of, like, the highlights, like, why you can run your SAP system in GCP. Okay, and also, like, I'm going to talk about, like, a little bit into the SAP ABAP SDK. Anyone used SAP ABAP SDK in your systems? Okay, I'll just talk about it, like what it is and why we build it. Okay. It all started with a simple use case. Like, we initially, like, launched our GL, journal ledger, all our alphabets, like, financial books, all the financial reports, the 10K reports, it's all, like, started going out of, like, SAP S4. We have central finance, right? Then one of the unique use cases is, like, not unique, it's a generic one, but it's very difficult to solve. It's like, we need to file the compliance in, like, local language. Say you're filing your government reporting in France, it has to be in French. So we started looking at tools, and obviously we know Google Translate, it's stand, like, on top of it. It supports, like, 115 plus languages. So this is where, like, we started this framework. Is just for our internal use case. We integrate, like, SAP with Google Cloud Translate API. And it's a great success. We are able to support, like, 650 plus company codes, 100 plus countries, in different languages. Then we thought, like, we don't want to live this initiative as just a standalone for one use case. We carve that out and we make that into an SAP ABAP SDK. We expanded the SDK into other areas. The second use case, that's my all-time favorite. So I know, like, in SAP, by default, we open it in Microsoft Excel, right? Like, then in Google, we started integrating workspace with SAP. It means, like, Google Docs or, like, Google Sheets, you can integrate with SAP. And we co-innovated with SAP and make that as one of the options in the SAP system itself. It's not just very specific for, like, SAP. Then, like, another, like, it's all learns by lessons. One of the other, like, roadblocker we saw is, we saw a lot of, like, a database contingency. And the actual reason behind that is, like, attachment frameworks. Like, we attach, like, say, for example, a tax exempt certificate at the vendor, like, invoice level. We were using a third party to store all these attachments, but also, like, majority of them were hitting the HANA DB. So we end up, like, bloating the HANA DB, to a, like, high extent. Then we thought, like, why can't we carve that out and start, like, putting that in the Google Cloud Store? So that became another use case. Then again, like, another lot of, like, success story is, like, the BigQuery. We have BigQuery, you can put a looker on top of it and you can run your analytics. How can we push the data from SAP S4 to BigQuery? So we developed a BigQuery adapter. And that adapter, like, can push the data to BigQuery, and you can do the dice and slice, and you can run your analytics. And the very recent one is, like, address validations, a simple thing. We added that API. We have the APIs available. We just enable it in SAP. So the whole SAP ABAP SDK was growing. Now we are at 40 plus APIs it's been enabled. And if you go to like, cloud.google.com, you can like, we have our own namespace, and you can like, in SAP, you can download the SDK, you can install it, you can have a trial version, you can give a try. It's really like, helping our business. So as I said, right, like we have the nuts and bolts in Google, but when we go to a third-party system like SAP, how we can make use of like, our existing like applications. So we created this ABAP SDK, and not only we stopped it for our internal use, also like, we started like, making that public, so anyone can make use of it. Okay, so that's all I have. Any questions? Yep.
Hey, great presentation, Bala. One quick question is, did you also manage to connect Ariba to BW? Do you have BW for HANA, I believe? So could you also connect like Ariba to BigQuery, for example?
So there is no like direct connection, but Ariba, it's used by our source to pay S2P team. And so we have our own like, BigQuery instance. We call it as FDU, Financial Data Universe. It's nothing but a BigQuery instance. So I don't have an architecture of it, but as you asked, I can tell you like how we do that. So basically, like we use SAP SLT, and we wrote a like, BigQuery connector, as I mentioned. We use the SLT, and the SLT pushes the data to BigQuery. So your target point is going to be SLT. From SLT, you connect to the BigQuery connector, and you push it. You can create your own like, BigQuery buckets, and pretty much that's it. But I think I don't have an answer for it. Probably I can check it out. But I'm pretty sure like, Ariba, it has all the, the integrations with a central ERP instance, that is our S4. So from S4, anything coming into S4, any table, like, we replicate to FDU.
Hey, Bala.
Hey.
Quick question. So your ABAP SDK, you showed it's integrated with BigQuery through the SDK. Does that integration help to migrate the data, or does the integration help lookers to come through it, and the data still resides in BRIM and be able to do analytics on it?
If I understand your question, are you talking about, is there any transformation can happen? Is that what you're asking?
No. Are you actually moving the data from BRIM to BigQuery through that SDK?
Correct.
Is that the feature, or is it allowing Looker to come through?
I mean, see, what is Looker? Looker is more mainly, you can think that of an UI, right? Like there are other players, big players in the same market, right? So Looker we acquired like 3 years back. Google Cloud acquired it. But you can put Looker on top of BigQuery. Then like, you can run the analysis in like Looker. But the data replication, like, we have like one step before like going to the BigQuery. Remember, we talk about like, FDU. One step before FDU, we call it as a G-core. But basically, what is G-core is, it's a 0% transformation. Say like, you are seeing a CRM table, the same CRM table without like any transformation, it's sit in like BigQuery in the G-core. Then we apply the rules, we like make the transformation, then it push it to the FDU. Then Looker can be like put on, we are already using Looker on top of like our BigQuery FDU to run our analytics.
Okay, so the data has to move to BigQuery.
It has to move, but I know what you're saying. There is a way like, you can connect Looker directly to SAP S4,
yes.
But I don't recommend that. Yeah, because basically it's meant for like, large volume of data. And you don't have to like put that on top of FDU. But say if it is like an executive summary, then why not? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if it is for your revenue, which is in BRIM, right? BRIM is running on top of S4. Then can Looker be used to do like executive dashboards?
Yeah. We can obviously like we can do it. But as I said, right, like we are not using it. We want to streamline it. Looker currently it's whitelisted only to put on top of like our BigQuery instance. I know what you're saying. There is a way to can connect to the HANA DB, but it's very similar to the SDA, but we are not like, allowed to do, so we are not doing. But yes, you can do it. There is a, strong use case to get only a summary level of data. Say your C-level people want to see like, hey, what is my sales? What is my revenue? They just see only the numbers, the consolidated numbers. They don't care like, order volume or a line, how many got rejected, right? Those cases definitely like, you can connect Looker directly to HANA DB.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. This to you. Here you go.
Hi, Bala. Thank you for the presentation. So a quick question on you said you had like a 30-day, you're pretty close to getting to the 30-day target for M&As, right?
Yep.
To migrate from acquired platforms into BRIM, right? Did I understand that right? Is that
okay, yeah, I'll tell you what it is. Okay, say, see any company like, anybody acquires, there is a time bound. We cannot just say like, there is a FTC like rule. You need to like merge that system into your existing system without X number of days. So we have an aggressive deadline saying like, hey, do it in 30 days. That's the instruction we got. And, but currently like, our ballpark number is 75 days. We took 75 days. In fact, we migrated Looker this Q1 of this year. It took 75 days to lift and shift like a Looker and put it in SAP BRIM. But we are trying to reduce it. Then currently like we are working on another M&A, Mandiant. We acquired that company like last year. So that one like, we're trying to reduce that number. So how we can reduce it is like, we're trying to create the playbook. Like as I mentioned, right? One is the migration framework, so that one side the migration can take care of it. Second one is the configurable like, framework, or you call it as a dashboard, where like, the users, the business users, they can go and say like, add these validations, and those validations can be embedded into SAP BRIM. And so basically like if the same, like say I have 10 validations, and if you go and like ask a developer, hey, do this 10 validation, it may end up into, at least like 10 or 5 rise of object, right? We end up like spending like, 5 resources for like, 3 weeks together, right? So we don't have the luxury of time. That's why we put up like this, we build these frameworks. This framework is all like clickable. You go and click, 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 you add this validation, and it will be automatically like, injected into the system. The same thing with like, custom billing. Say we have monthly billing, quarterly billing. Like we have a product where they said they have a very unique requirement of like, what time their billing has to start. So those things like we made that more and more like configuration, because like, go and do a configuration like by clicking, it's like, it's a simple, we can do it in like, probably a day compared to like, 3 weeks and like, 5 resources.
Right, right. No, I think that piece I understand. My question was going to be more on like, how did you address challenges with the data quality, right? I mean, that is within, that might be your challenge,
Okay.
biggest challenge,
I understand, right? Yeah. So I could say like, I can share one of our recent challenges. It's like, like we bring the order, and eventually we need to like provision that product so that the end customer can like start using it. So that was one of the challenge, and that particular like, provisioning was sitting in like, in an entire like different SaaS, right? So we end up like creating something called like, a provisioning like orchestration again. So this is one challenge, like that we faced many. Even migration was a challenge in the beginning, now that is solved, but now we are seeing the challenge at the tail end, how we can like make the provisioning. So we started building the provisioning orchestration. Again, we try to make it as generic as possible. It can be a configurable one. Then like the provision can be like added. Say Mandiant comes with like, 20 different like product line. We can just add those things into the configuration, and the provision can be like, automatically done with the underlying like, services. This is just one of the like lessons learned. Like we are learning. That's why we are not yet at 30 days. We are still at 75 days, but hopefully like, in 2 quarters, we will be like, beating the 30 days. Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, thank you.